Good evening. I don't know what this means, but the first few weeks I got glowing introductions from Pastor Trevor, Pastor Joshua, Pastor Watts, and tonight I get, "You're up."
Ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, okay, that's good. Have you had a good week? How many of you have longed to be in the top 20% of any class you've ever taken in school? Think back. That's what I spent my life doing, was looking at statistics and assessments and trying to help teachers to determine if this child was developing mastery of the subject matter. And if they were 80% or above, you could consider it mastery. And we would highlight them green, or the green would show up full stream ahead, just like a traffic light. Well, I heard an interesting statistic this week that people who have had conversations with their families around the issues of end-of-life care, that it amounts to only about 20% of the population. So all of us in here are at the top of our class because we have the tool to have the conversation, and we've been going through it and writing it down. And so when you have that conversation, you can kick your heels up and say, "I'm in the top of the class." The person also who works a lot with families and individuals at the end of life stages said to me, what's interesting is the amazing difference between that 20% that have had the conversation and those who haven't. The peace, the assurance, the knowledge of knowing what their loved one wants. He said it's just a world of difference in how the whole process works, which I thought was pretty interesting feedback from someone who deals with this issue on a day in and day out basis. And so think of that because we've talked really for the last 3 weeks that this is a gift. This is a gift you give your family. It's a gift of peace. It's a gift of them understanding what your wishes are and what you want to have happen. And so it was just a confirmation that we're on the right road, we're on the right track for here. I was talking to another friend who I actually did this seminar for them on a weekend, and he said, "Oh, it's great." He said, "You can tell people that, that you're going to give them a very special gift for the holidays. You're going to tell them how you want to die." He said, "Some people might want to know that." So, however you want to look at that, but it is a gift. We're moving right along. Wish one, we've talked about the decision maker, the person that's over 18 that is going to make decisions for you and speak for you in the event that you are unable to speak for yourself. Wish two is telling that decision maker what it is you want them to make, what type of decision you want them to make, what type of medical treatment you want. So there's no guessing. Oh, would he want this or would he want that, or I don't know. I remember 20 years ago he said this or she said that. It's you've told them. You've identified who it is, and then you've also talked about the medical treatment that you would want. Wish three, pain management or comfort care. Who can tell me one thing in the comfort care section of wish three that really stuck out to you? What? Oh, that's mine. Massage with warm oil. Anything else? It was emphasized. What? The songs you want to have played. Yeah, all of this comfort care, things that are going to minister peace to you at that time. And then tonight we're going to look at wish four, and we may even get to wish five tonight. But wish four is less about comfort care, but how you want to be treated. So if we can turn to wish four in your booklet. Okay, thank you.
My mother, she agreed to go, to sign papers for a hospice when she was, and that was our one and only experience with hospice, which was extremely positive thing, you know, all considered. And, don't they, I thought, for a great deal, they kind of follow along with this. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but they do a lot of these things as just part of their operating procedure.
Yes, yes. A lot of your hospice care, a lot of your hospice care organizations will follow along with exactly this type of comfort and pain management because they're really talking about the same thing. At that point, at the end of life, when medical intervention has been decided, and either it's not going to be effective or you have made the decision and expressed your wishes that you don't want to have medical intervention, then we move into comfort care, pain management, and what you want. But again, you might be able to verbalize that to a loved one, but you might not. So this kind of is out in front of that. Because a lot of times when you sit down with hospice care, they're sitting with the family and they're asking them, what is it that you want? So if you've had this conversation beforehand, it kind of guides them in making the decision, sitting down with the hospice chaplain or the hospice nurse.
Well, it sure would have felt good because my mother, she was the type of individual who could never discuss death.
Mm.
And my dad, years ago, had wanted to buy burial plots and we could get them cheaper and make arrangements, that type of thing. And Ann and I and Dad had to do all this stuff without talking to her. She never made her wishes known, except she did sign that paper for hospice, and it says, your mom may not have admitted to you that she was dying, but she did sign those papers.
And so she knew at some level. Yes, and
No comfort to me.
yeah. But you know, that's also so often the case is that we think if we don't talk about something, then it won't happen. You know, I thought if I never talked about losing my hair, I would always have a full head of hair. How'd that work out for me? Yeah, about. So, and it's the same thing. If people often, whether they want to verbalize it that way, but they avoid that topic because then it won't happen. You know.
And you know, it took me almost a year to come to terms with that.
Sure.
And that was down and discussed with her. She believed in it, but she never would confront that. And I was hurt. And then I realized that, like a lot of people say, your mom had always protected her children, and even though you were a grown man by then now, she was still protecting her family. That was her way. That would not have been my way. And to respect that.
I once had someone in one of these seminars who told me, yes, I sat down with my son and I told him, sit down, we're having this conversation. I want to go over this booklet with you. And he said, no, I don't want to hear it. And I said, sit down. We're having the conversation. And I said to him, I said, because he was an elderly gentleman, I said, how old is your son? He said, 63, but I'm still the dad. You know, so I think that that's something that's ingrained in all of us. They might be 63, but they're still the kid. You know, and so your mom was maybe trying to protect like she did when you were a small child, and you're like, I'm a grown man. All through our life, yeah, very true.
We had a man in our church, 63. His mother was 93. He talked about any day. My mother passed away. He hit the door and he was the one that passed away.
Yeah.
So don't think that those old moms in the 90s and you're living your young 60s, you're going to make it.
Yeah. Are you talking to me? You're looking right at me.
Might be good to do both ways. Each person has their use.
Yes, and we've talked about that in here as a group, that this is a tool that was developed by the Council on Aging, but it is not a tool exclusively for the elderly. It's not something that you should get with that initial Social Security check. I've seen so many young people, as you mentioned, 63, young man, younger all the time, who hits the door, gone, before his 93-year-old mom. So it's something really that everybody needs to have. In fact, the Council on Aging has just recently released a 5 Wishes booklet for teenagers. So that begin having the conversation even with your teenagers. Now, I don't know how comfortable I am with that, but there's a recognition that this crosses all age barriers and that we all are susceptible to an accident or some type of catastrophic event that could leave us unable to speak for ourselves. So, for teens. Yes. And I think of the power of that if, as a teenager, mom and dad and grandparents begin to have that conversation for everybody, the power that that can be in for that family and the gift that it is for everybody in the family, that they've talked about it, they've had the conversation, they know what everybody's wishes are, because mom and dad are talking to their teenager and their teenager is talking to them, and maybe the grandparents are there. To me, I see the value of in that, and that they're starting the conversation very young. Any other comments? Okay, let's look at wish 4. Wish 4 deals specifically with how I want to be treated, how I want my dignity preserved. And again, cross out anything that you don't agree with, anything that you don't want for yourself, and then add on if there's something else that you want. I wish to have people with me when possible. I want someone to be with me when it seems that death may come at any time. A lot of people think that the worst thing is to die alone. So they project that onto people. But someone may just wish to make their peace on their own and cross over into their eternal reward alone and not want to burden the family with trying to arrange to always have someone there. So again, that may seem like it's an odd thing to write, but there are people who will cross that off because it's not that important to them. I wish to have my hand held and to be talked to when possible, even if I don't seem to respond to the voice or the touch of others. In my 5 Wishes book, I crossed off and talked to. I don't mind if someone's holding my hand, but I really don't want someone talking to me, yammering in my ear. That's just me. Someone else may really find a lot of comfort in that. So that's why it's there. Yes.
My husband had hospice for 3 days, and I was hospice spiritual in that time. And I was talking to one of the women that was there, and I said something. But he can hear you.
Yes. Yeah. Oftentimes. So again, talking to the person or even talking in the room. And the next one, I wish to have others by my side praying for me when possible. I love prayer. But I don't know that I want to say, yes, I would probably put underline for me personally when possible, because I wouldn't want to put that on to someone. But there are other people, again, who I don't want a bunch of people in the room praying and carrying on. Just let me have peace. Let me have peace and quiet, hold my hand, and let me transition to my eternal reward. There's nothing wrong with that. Just like there's nothing wrong if you want to have people in the room praying and singing and celebrating. You know, that's what this is about, is you writing down what your wishes are and then having the conversation with your family so they know what your wishes are. Now, wishes are not demands, and that's part of the conversation. You know, this is what I would like if it's possible. It may not be possible. Don't put any guilt on yourself if it doesn't happen. That's where that conversation comes in. That's why we really emphasize so much to share this booklet. I wish to have the members of my faith community told that I am sick and asked to pray for me and visit me. How many of you want the church to be praying for you when you're sick? Yep, I do. Yeah. But you know, there's some people that will specifically say, don't tell the church how sick I am. Don't tell the church that I'm in the hospital. And then when they pass and they do tell the church, we're like, why didn't you tell us? Well, they didn't want you to know. Okay, that's a choice. So again, it's about respecting your wishes. But if you don't write that, if you don't have that conversation with your loved ones and they say, well, I know he went over to Liberty Baptist and he went every Sunday and most Wednesdays and he was pretty involved and was in a life group. So yeah, let's get everybody from Liberty over here. And you might not want that. So again, you are giving a gift to people that are going to be making decisions about what's going to bring comfort to you and how you want to be treated. I wish to be cared with kindness, cheerfulness, and not sadness. Amen. Right. And that's important in that conversation because it seems like it's so obvious. And yet I will tell you, a lot of people come to the hospital sad. Oh, I'm so sorry you're going through this. God is still God, even when you're in the hospital, and he is faithful, and he will rise you up, he will minister to you, he will give you encouragement. And so we need to make sure that our loved ones know that. Don't come into my room sad and weeping. First of all, if I'm near death, I am going to a better place because I stand on the promise that to be absent in this body is to be in the presence of Jesus. And that's a whole lot better than being here with you guys. Sorry. There you go. Write it down. You know. And again, you're letting them know so that if someone comes in and they're sad or they're crying, someone else can say, you know, this isn't really what Dad wanted or this isn't really what Bob wanted. Let's step outside, you know, and just take them out of the room because it's genuinely, maybe they were genuinely sad. But again, you have communicated that you want it to be treated with kindness and people to be happy and joyful around you. I wish to have pictures of my loved ones in my room near my bed. Yeah, I want pictures of my dogs. I do. And you want pictures of your cats. You know, things that are going to bring joy to you, are going to remind everyone that comes into the room that this is a human being, that this is a father. If I walk into Pastor Joshua's hospital room and I see a picture of Austin, it's going to be an ever-present. This is not just Pastor Joshua. This is a father, a husband. He's a human being. And right away we have oh, is that your son? Let me tell you about mine. You can tell me about yours. I saw him at trunk or treat wearing the crazy, and right away we can start talking, you know, because I did see Austin at trunk or treat wearing a crazy costume, looking like mac and cheese or something. Remember that? So it is a great conversation starter which again is helpful for people. It's a gift to people that they come in right away. They can have a point of contact and a point of conversation. I love to talk about my dogs. I love Cavalier King Charles dogs. How many of you know what Cavalier King Charles? I have pictures. No, I do have pictures. They're so sweet. They love me. That tells you how sweet they are. I have Rusty and Buddy and Chester, who for some reason I always call Trevor. Sorry, Pastor Trevor. You can ask Ruth. I'll say, Trevor, stop it. I don't know, since the day he came in the house as a puppy, but his name is Chester, right? Yeah. I think today I called him Trevor, and there was actually a repairman whose name was Trevor, and he was like, what did I do? Yes, sir.
I wish to be careful with kindness to sadness. I think you have to be careful on that because, not everybody is used to dealing with these kind of emotions. And they don't always have a handle on how they should go about it. Just like a lot of people are very uncomfortable with handling everything. They don't know what to say. And our culture is not the best on life situations of how you, in particular, a lot of people find it very difficult until something traumatic like a death occurs to be able to really express their inner feelings and stuff. And you may interpret it and say, well, I don't understand, but the thing is, you don't want to really hurt them either because sometimes that's the only way they know how to react.
Yeah, and remember I said guide them out of the room and maybe acknowledge that their emotion that they're feeling is genuine because it's probably a genuine emotion. But if you have expressly said, I really don't want to be around a lot of sadness at the end, then those that are left, that are your family, can guide that person out and say, I understand it's a sad time. But, mom, dad, uncle, whatever, really wants people not to be sad at this time because he believes he's going to another person, to another place. We had this conversation. And so try not to be so upset when you go in. I'm not saying kick them out and say, get out of here. But there is the recognition that it's probably the few times in life where it's all about you. Okay? And so if you have that conversation with loved ones, you can, if you're of the opinion, if someone's crying, if someone's upset, I'm okay with it. I just don't want all the mourning and crying and weeping from everybody in the room. That's why, again, I say, use this tool, sit down with someone and go through it. And say, this is why I underlined this. This is why I crossed this off. So that when that time comes, they know what your wishes are. Again, this is a tool written for everybody in 26 states. So it's somewhat generic in places, but that's why you get to cross off and add in. Because you can say, now if Aunt Sue comes in here and she's weeping, I don't want anyone to throw her out. Just gently tell her this. And that's where that conversation piece comes in. It's so important to not just take this book and stick it away somewhere. Even if you decide I'm going to put it somewhere where it's easily findable, I'm going to put it on the freezer, I'm going to put it in a hot file right by the door so that it's really easy for anyone to find. That's good. That's a great start. But it's also important to talk to your family about it and let them know that you're going through this, why you're going through it, why you want to tell them this, that you want to give them this gift. Because when the time comes, the process is so much smoother. It's so much easier because nobody has to guess. They've got it written down and they've had the conversation. So if you have multiple children, have it with all of them. I think it's a great Christmas conversation.
Where Tom's coming from. But in this case, you don't have to worry about answering or Uncle Bob or we got a cousin.
Watch out for Uncle Bob.
Yeah, we have a cousin named Sammy. And my mother said, I don't want anything from your cousin, from her nephew. And we didn't have anything nephew. They didn't get us here. She had the forethought to say, if you want to send me flowers, send it to me while I'm alive, not while I'm sick or not while I'm dead. And so it was very empowering to us. We didn't have anything against him or anything, but we said politely, you're not to have any arguments.
No.
And no hard feelings. We could have made concessions, but it was empowering because she said these things.
Right.
These are what she wanted. Whether they be right or wrong, it's not for us to judge. It's what she wanted, and it was very empowering for us to just blatantly would say, okay, this is it. That's right. There's nothing more to be said. And so it's empowering that way. But we did, especially in the last, we did like talking about life and death here, and what that person wanted, and what the wishes were, and it gives power to people that you talk to, especially when it comes to binary issues. You don't really know what's going on.
And it's always a conversation. Sometimes it's a conversation that people even start having about an elderly relative or a sick relative before they die. Well, what are you going to do? And to me, I'm like, I'm going to spend time with them now. I'm going to see if they have a 5 wishes where they've written down that they want pictures of whatever, and try to do that. If they want pictures of their loved ones, if they want pictures of their pets, if they want pictures of maybe some special place that they went to. To me, I would rather do that for someone than send them flowers after they're gone. Just personal. So it's, as Pastor Joshua said, it's empowering. I am not able, I wish to have, the next one. If I am not able to control my bowel or bladder functions, I wish for my clothes and bed linens to be kept clean and for them to be changed as soon as they can be if they have been soiled. That's pretty practical. That's pretty practical. But you know what? It's not something you probably are going to think about at the time. You're going to be worried about so many other things. But it's there, and I've never known anyone that crossed that off, by the way. But it's there, and so for the loved one to say, they need to be cleaned up and to be your advocate, you're giving them permission to be your advocate. Okay, and unfortunately, there are some people who need permission to advocate for someone else in need. And so you're giving them that permission. You're having that conversation. No, I don't want that to happen. But if it does, I want you to advocate for me. I want you to go out and say to the caregivers, the nurses' aide, whoever it is, that this needs to happen, and I don't want you to say, well, they'll figure it out when they come in next time. No, step out and say, there's been an accident and he needs to be changed or she needs to be changed. These are real life situations. And when you're in them and there's not been the thought, there's not been the discussion, you don't know what to do. It's like, what is my role? And you think you know what your role is until you're faced in that situation. And some of us sitting here tonight are going to be faced with that situation down the road, and you're going to remember that tall guy in the sanctuary who said, advocate. And you're going to say, okay, that's what I need to do. Or you'll look in the 5 wishes booklet and you'll say, oh, yep, that's what I'm supposed to do. It'll just be a trigger. And so remember that part of how you treat someone is being an advocate for them. Yes, it's putting out the pictures. Yes, it's being there. It's holding their hand. It's conversation. But it's also advocating for them to make sure that they are pain-free, and that they are comfortable. Any questions about anything on Wish 4 in this booklet? There's one more. Oh, a big one. I wish to die in my home if that can be done. A lot of people want that. And more hospitals are wanting that. You know, how many know why hospitals want you to die at home? They don't have to clean you up. No, it's not that. Excuse me?
You want to be more comfortable. You're going to be more comfortable at home than the hospital.
Yeah.
That's why the hospital wants you at home. That's what happened to my father.
Yeah.
I know that.
And also, every hospital in the country is rated. And the number of patients they have that pass away in the hospital impacts that rating. And so, yes, if there's nothing that they can do medically for you to recover and you can be more comfortable at home, it's better, and it doesn't impact their rating. And unfortunately, in this day and age, that's a big deal because it keeps their costs down, because it impacts what level of funding they're eligible for. Yes, yeah, which then transfers to our costs being lower. Yeah. Yeah, because hospice is not a medical treatment. It's really comfort care at the end of life. So again, through hospice care, you get a lot of support as a family. Okay? Yes, they do give medication for pain. Yeah. Yeah. And they're here in Lake County, and Lady of the Lake, is that the name of the town? Lady Lake, the hospice has an in-house facility. So if you, yes, there is one in Tavares. But if you cannot be medically treated at the hospital, and so there's no reason for you to stay at the hospital, and you can't be home or you don't want to be at home. I had a very good friend of mine who passed away within the last couple of months, and he had 2 little children. And he did not want to pass away in their home. He thought that would have a real negative impact on the children. So he went into the inpatient hospice care at Lady Lake. And he passed away there. But it was in a home setting and so forth. But he just made that decision for himself. So there's options. And I think that when you are having this conversation with your loved ones, it's not just hospital and home. There are other options available as well.
But I still think that this is something that I try to share with people on part of my ministry, is that these things that we're talking about here, those are important to share for sure. But I think it's also extremely important, especially the closer the relationship, is to be open with that person. You have things that you want to share that are on your mind. This, when a person is ill, that's particularly when those things arise. But I like to think that you can do it before that you need to reinforce those relationships. And if there's doubts in your mind about something that your brother said or your dad said or whoever, don't let those be taken to the grave. Because once that passes, you can't go back. And I think that's, I felt blessed myself that about 3 months before my dad passed, although we always shared confidences, but my sister had called and she said, Dad, I think he's not going to be around very much longer. I think well, he lived in a different state. And Ann and I went out there, and Dad knew those things, but I just wanted to reinforce some of the things in my life that had meant so much to me to have been able to share.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that gives that person
And when you're sitting with your family and going over these 5 wishes booklets, it's an ideal time to address those kinds of issues. I know that in my own personal case, my father and I were not that close. We were close, but not very, very close. And he was going to the Cleveland Clinic to have experimental surgery. Okay, and so I went from California. I met him there and was there before he went in for the surgery. The surgery did not go as planned, and I ended up staying 17 days at the Cleveland Clinic with him. And during that 17 days, we had conversations that we had never had in life. He talked about his faith, and he talked about his disdain for organized religion. And I said, "You mean church?" And he said, "Exactly." And he told me why. But he talked about his own personal faith. So, it's a great time. We were very fortunate to have captured that moment and that time for those 17 days. But how much better if we'd had this conversation beforehand while he was still well. So I want to encourage you that when you sit with loved ones and go through this booklet, that you talk about those things as well, expand on it. I want us to look at the next wish. And I've alluded to this a couple of times. And I'm going to ask you to spend a little bit of time tonight working on this. And this really is, wish 5 is what you want your loved ones to know. In the event that you don't get to have that personal conversation, this is a great place. And it tells you, it just walks you through it. I wish to have my family and friends know that I love them. I've never had anyone cross that out. But sometimes your family and friends may not know that because maybe we haven't told them enough, or they think that we don't because they did something and we're mad at them, but we still love them. It's important for them to know that. I wish to be forgiven for the times I have hurt my family, friends, and others. Anyone in here not ever hurt a family member? I can't raise even a finger. Or a friend. So it's acknowledging that you do that. And sometimes when you're going through this with family, that can be a powerful healing time. That dad is saying he's hurt. That he's hurt us in some way. Mom is saying that she's hurt us in some way. And when you're having that conversation with them, you might even ask them if there's something specific. Is there anything that I haven't already told you where I might have hurt you and not known it? Because sometimes we hurt people and don't even know it. But it gives you a chance to really clean that up, if we can use that terminology. And it just goes on through, there's several of them here. I wish for all my family members to make peace with each other before my death if they can. How many of us have had any type of strife in the family? Oh, I'm glad I'm not the only one raising my hand. Ruth, raise your hand. We're in the same family. Pretty much everybody. Bill's got both hands up. So using your death or this time when you're talking about your death as an opportunity for maybe making peace, for people to make peace. It's powerful. If anyone asks how I want to be remembered, please say the following about me. Now, I started to write that he was tall, dark, and handsome. And then I thought, well, that's just my wicked sense of humor. I better be serious here for a minute. So really, think about in this coming week, what do you want people to say about you? Because sometimes people need to be given the words. I ended up writing, I want people to say that I was present, that I was available, that I loved God, that I served my Lord. And I began to write down some of those fundamental things, that were important to me, that people remember about me. That I was a friend, and when you needed someone, I was present. I was always available to assist and to help. You could count on me. That's what I meant by being present. And that's what comes out in the conversation. Now, not everybody wants to be remembered as being present. Maybe they want to be remembered because they were loving or they were kind. You're not going to find me write that down. Present, yes. Loved God, yes. If there is to be a memorial service for me, I wished for this service to include the following. And I've alluded to this about Pastor Trevor, that I've got 22 songs I once sung. And I don't want a memorial service. I just want a graveside service. So I don't think we'll sing all 22. But I've listed songs that have meaning to me. Songs that I like. And so that when Ruth needs to plan my service, she's not going to have to sit down and try to figure out what songs. She's going to have a whole list to choose from. And she's going to know that those meant something to me. And because of the conversation, she's going to know what those are and what they mean to me. If there's a particular reading that you want. I know for my mother, I had no idea, and my mother lived with us for the last 11 years of her life, but I had no idea that my mother was a lover of poetry until she died. Now, I don't know how you can live with someone growing up till you're a grown man, and then live with them for the last 11 years of your life and miss that. But I did. But she had written in a book a poem that she wanted read at her funeral, that she had written out in the 60s. So we put it in the bulletin and we read it at her service. In her Bible, yes. And it had been there apparently for all of those years, and when got new Bibles, just moved it over. So, she had written it down. Luckily, we found it. But if it was here, it would be a little easier. Yes? She wants you to do all the work.
That's not me.
Okay, so, but how about that for someone who wants to fulfill your wishes, wants to make sure that whatever pictures we show are pictures that mom would want. And so it really is, she's asking for a gift. She doesn't even realize it probably, but really, because then her older sister won't fight with her because you'll have it all done. Well, she might fight with her anyway. You always fight, okay. But in a way, she's really honoring you. And I think if you have the conversation with her around these 5 wishes, I suspect you might find her real receptive to all of it because she wants to know. Yes? What a gift. I have my obituary written out. It's long. It's going to be pages in the newspaper. Ruth will have to edit it closely. Oh, it cost a lot, I know. Yeah.
Bob was so humble.
Yeah. No, it starts with, he was tall, dark, and handsome in his dreams. No. But what a gift for you and for the rest of the family that that is all written out and what she wants. Thank you, Dawn, for sharing. It was a little awkward at first. Did I quote you right? It was a little awkward at first. It's going to be. And when you sit down with your loved ones and your family and you talk about this 5 wishes, it's going to be a little awkward at first. But just keep in mind that you're giving them a gift that they don't even know they're getting. Because was it a gift at the end? Did it get easier to have the conversation? Sure. It's a little awkward at first. But at the end of the day, it's important conversations to have. Any other comments? Right. Yes. Or do we need to have additional help in the home? And how much is it going to cost? And how much is everybody going to contribute? Yes, right. Yeah. And what their professional responsibilities or their own family life responsibilities are. Yes, because hospice tends to be a catch-all, but it's really not. I know my stepfather passed away on Christmas Eve, and he was in hospice. We waited hours for the doctor to come to pronounce. And that was after we had called and asked for the nurse to come. So it's not immediate, and they're not always there. Very good point. Thank you.
She definitely had a good point, because I know Ann and I learned with Mom, that was our first real, is that even though my dad wasn't very strong physically and emotionally, we found that after 3 days, even though hospice was on the go, it just took such an emotional toll on him that he goes down and started crying. So I hands to stay with him.
Yeah.
And I was blessed because I had took an early retirement and I had the time to do that. And I thank the Lord that I was able to do that, because that was their both on their creating time of need.
Yes.
But you're right, there's an awful lot of loose ends.
Yeah.
Come in and do the medication.
They're an answer for a piece, but they're not the answer. Yeah. Yeah. Did you want to make a comment? No? Okay. All right. So for next week, I'm going to ask you to give some thought to that wish 5, maybe even write some things down. Next week, I want us to go through wish 5 to conclude, and then I want us to practice, because as Dawn shared, it's a little awkward at first. So if we practice with each other having the conversation, then we'll be better prepared when we need to have this conversation with our family and our loved ones. And then if anybody wants to sign their 5 wishes, there are plenty of people here who can witness it. Do not sign it ahead of time. Wait until it is completely filled out and you're ready to make it a legal document. Then and only then, in front of your witness, do you sign it. Because in the state of Florida, the witness is witnessing your signature only. And they don't have to be a notary in the state of Florida. It's just someone to witness your signature. And believe it or not, it can be hard to find someone to witness your signature. But here, there's plenty of people, and Ruth and I are here. We'll be happy to witness it, but we won't sign it if we don't see you sign it. So don't sign it until you're ready to make it a legal document. So there's a lot of things to think about. Think about wish 1, wish 2, wish 3, wish 4, and also think about wish 5. What is it? What do you want to happen? Do you want to be buried? Do you want to be cremated? That's all included as you look through wish 5. And we'll talk about that at the beginning of our session next week. But hopefully you will have thought about it so that you can answer those questions and practice it.